For months, you existed within the safe confines of your mother's body, surrounded by others just like you. At first, the space seemed endless, a warm and silent world where you drifted without concern. But as time passed, the comfort began to shrink. What had once been a large, unchallenged territory became crowded, and with crowding came conflict. It wasn't an open battle, not in the way creatures or the surface might fight, but in a quiet, relentless contest for survival. Some of your siblings faded before they even had the chance to understand why. You did not. You were stronger, faster, more instinctive in your hunger. While others hesitated, you took what you needed. You consumed the unfertilized eggs your mother produced, growing at their expense, feeding on the very sustenance meant to create more for you. Yet, as harsh as it may seem, there was no malice in it, no cruelty, only necessity. And when the time came for you to leave that place, you did so alone. The moment you emerged from the safety of your mother's body, the ocean engulfed you completely. The temperature shift was immediate and shocking, but you did not have the luxury of hesitation. Your body, lean and wiry, propelled you forward into the vast unknown. There was no gentle introduction, no protective gaze watching over you. From the second you entered the water, you were utterly, irrevocably alone. Yet even in solitude, you were not without purpose. Hunger, the same force that had ensured your survival before, guided your actions now. You had never seen prey, never been taught to hunt, but instinct filled in the gaps that experience had yet to carve out. Your senses, though untested, were built for this. The organ extended from your snout picked up the faintest traces of electric pulses around you, invisible signals betraying the presence of life. You did not know what the creature ahead of you was, nor did you care. All that mattered was that it moved, and movement meant sustenance. Closing the distance, you remained still, allowing the current to guide you until you were close enough to strike. In one swift motion, your jaw launched forward, extending far beyond what seemed possible, and your teeth clamped down around soft, wreathing flesh. The struggle lasted only for a moment. Then silence. The wriggling ceased. The prey disappeared down your throat, and for the first time, you knew what it was to kill. There was no time for satisfaction, no moment of reflection. The ocean was not a place for sentimentality. You had eaten. Now you had to survive. You let yourself sink, descending into the deeper waters where light did not reach. Up above, the world of the surface creatures stretched on in ways you would never see. Theirs was a world of brightness, of currents and predators, vastly different from the ones you would encounter. But that was not your world. Yours was the abyss, the endless expanse where the weak vanished and the strong adapted. Weeks passed in a haze of drifting and feeding. You learned to move efficiently, allowing the thick oil in your liver to keep you buoyant, wasting as little energy as possible. Prey was not always easy to find, but patience was key. Those who rushed, those who exhausted themselves in frantic attempts to chase down every flicker of movement, did not last long. The deep rewarded those who knew when to wait. One day, as you floated in the quiet stillness, something unusual caught your attention. A faint glow, pulsing rhythmically in the distance, drifted through the darkness like a distant star. It was not the erratic flicker of struggling prey, nor the steady pulse of another predator's presence. It was something different, something unfamiliar. You approached cautiously, every moment measured. As the glow became clearer, you realized it was no fish, no ordinary prey. It was a jellyfish, its translucent form shifting gently with the current, its bioluminescent body casting an eerie illumination around it. You had never encountered such a creature before, but something in the way it moved put you on edge. The glow pulsed again, and before you could react, a thin, nearly invisible tendril shot toward you. Instinct screamed for you to retreat, and you obeyed, flicking your tail and propelling yourself backward just in time to avoid the stinging touch of the jellyfish's tentacles. Had you lingered even a second longer, the encounter would have ended very differently. The jellyfish, undeterred by your escape, continued its slow, deliberate drift. Its tendrils swayed in search of the next unsuspecting victim. You had learned something new. Not all things that move are meant to be chased. Not all things that glow can be trusted. As you turned away, disappearing once more into the depths, you knew this lesson would serve you well. In a world where every shadow could be hiding something larger, more dangerous and more cunning than yourself, knowledge was just as vital as hunger. And down here, the ones who failed to learn did not get a second chance. Months turned into a year, and you were no longer the fragile creature that had first entered the ocean. You had seen the deep in all its silence and savagery, had learned what to pursue and what to avoid. You had hunted, escaped, adapted, and even with all you had gained, you would soon discover that there were forces in this world far greater, far older than anything you had ever known, and some creatures did not need to hunt to be feared. Some simply existed, and their existence alone was enough to shake the balance of the abyss. The ocean had always been vast, but now it felt endless. You had grown stronger, larger, more efficient in your hunt. The once frequent pangs of hunger no longer plagued you as they had in the early days, when survival was an unrelenting struggle. Now you understood the rhythms of the deep, the ebb and flow of opportunity, the stillness before the strike, the patience required to outlast those who fail to adapt. But there were still mysteries, forces beyond your understanding lurking in the vast, silent abyss. You had encountered many creatures in your time, slow, gelatinous beings that pulsed with an eerie glow. Fish with translucent bodies, their bones faintly visible beneath their skin. Others like you, quick and predatory, vanishing into the darkness before you could determine if they were rivals or kin. But nothing had prepared you for what came next. It started with a shift in the water, a disturbance that reached you before you saw anything. The current, normally steady and predictable, changed, pulling at you with an unfamiliar force. Your body adjusted instinctively, angling into the flow, seeking to understand its source. This was no ordinary shift. The deep had its currents, but this was different. Subtle yet insistent, as though something enormous was displacing the very fabric of the ocean itself. Then the sound came. A low, distant hum, unlike anything you've ever perceived. It did not come from a predator, nor did it resemble the distress signals of wounded prey. This was something ancient, something vast. It resonated through the water, not loud, but impossibly deep, vibrating through your body like a pulse from the abyss itself. And then it appeared. A shadow, darker than the surrounding void, moving with a slowness that defied understanding. It was not like you. It was not like anything you had ever seen. It drifted in the current, its form immense and unknowable, its body stretching beyond what your senses could fully grasp. It did not hurt. It did not flee. It simply moved, unbothered by the world around it, as if it had existed long before the ocean itself had taken shape. You remained motionless, instinct demanding that you neither approach nor flee. The deep had taught you that movement drew attention, and attention, in a world of unseen predators, was often the last mistake a creature could make. But the shadow did not turn toward you. It did not even acknowledge your presence. It continued its slow passage through the abyss, vanishing into the dark, as silently as it had come. Even as it disappeared, the water carried traces of its presence, an aftershock of something beyond comprehension. For the first time in your existence, you felt small, not in the way you had when you were newly hatched, alone in the endless blue. This was different. This was the realization that there were things in the ocean far beyond your reach, beings that moved through the deep without care for the struggles of lesser creatures. You had survived your first true encounter with the unknown, but the deep was not done with you yet. Days passed, perhaps weeks. Time was meaningless in the abyss, where light never reached and distance was measured only by the fading of movement. You had not seen another creature since the shadow's passing. The water had been unnervingly still, as if life itself had momentarily receded, waiting for some unseen force to release its hold. Then hunger returned. The deep did not care for contemplation. It did not care for the mysteries of ancient things or the fears of those who lived within it. It demanded only survival. And so you moved. Your senses stretched into the water, searching for the faintest trace of life. The abyss was deceptive, its silence often masking the presence of prey until it was too late. You had learned not to trust only your sight, for down here, sight was useless. It was the electric pulses, the vibrations, the tiny shifts in pressure that revealed the hidden. And there it was, faint but distinct, the irregular flicker of something alive. You turned, gliding silently toward it, your body aligning with the current to mask your approach. The pulse quickened. It was aware, but it was not fast enough. You struck, jaws unhinged, extending outward in that terrifyingly impossible way that defined your kind. Teeth met flesh. The creature wreathed, its form partially obscured even as you latched on, but you could feel the resistance, the desperate struggle of something that knew it was losing. You clamped down harder, shaking your head to tear into the prey, feeling the warmth of its life fading as its movements weakened. Then, just as quickly as it had begun, it was over. The meal was gone, swallowed into the endless hunger that drove you forward. But something was wrong. A tremor rippled through the water, more felt than seen. The stillness shattered. The abyss, once quiet, now pulsed with an unmistakable disturbance. You were not alone. The presence was close, far closer than you had realized. It had been watching, waiting, and now it moved. You turned sharply, your body coiling into readiness, but there was no shadow this time. No slow-moving behemoth that ignored your existence. This was different. This was a predator. It came fast, a blur in the dark, a force that sent shockwaves through the water as it closed in. You reacted instinctively, darting away, twisting through the currents in an attempt to evade. The thing behind you was larger, more experienced, but you were not weak. You had survived this long by knowing when to fight and when to flee. A flash, teeth jagged and gleaming for the briefest moment before the darkness swallowed them again. You twisted, barely avoiding the strike, feeling the rush of displaced water against your side. Your pursuer was relentless, undeterred by the miss. You could not outfight it. Not yet. But you could outmaneuver it. Diving downward, you let gravity take you, sinking faster than most creatures would dare. The pressure increased, pressing against you. But your body was built for this. You embraced the fall, disappearing into the depths where even predators hesitated to follow. And then the chase stopped. The presence lingered above, pacing the water as if considering whether to pursue was worth continuing. For a long moment, the abyss was silent once more. Then it turned. The predator retreated, fading into the dark, leaving you alone once more. You remained still, waiting. Even as the danger passed, you knew better than to rise too quickly. The deep had its own rules, and those who ignored them often did not live to regret it. Finally, when you were certain the ocean was quiet again, you ascended, slowly, carefully. The chase had drained you, but hunger remained. There would always be another hunt, and you would always be waiting. Because in the abyss, there were only two choices. Survive or disappear. Life as a goblin shark might be rough, but wait till you hear about the life of a leopard. It's way worse.